First up, the head of film distribution and programming, Cinepolis India, Mayank. The CEO Film Division, IN10 Media Network, Vivek Krishnani. Do we have Vivek with us? Yes. Thank you, Vivek, for joining us. Film producer, Sunir Kheterpal. Head content, Z Studios, Ashima Avasthi Chaudhuri. Thank you, Ashima. And film critic, journalist, and author, Mayank Shekhar.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this excellent panel on breathing life into cinema. Of course, here we'll be referring to cinema both as the production business that it is, but also as the creative art that it also is. And beyond all those two things, the one that really bothers us at this moment is the theatrical space that cinema also occupies. And we have practically all these aspects of cinema represented in this fantastic panel, guys. Those who are inside, still sitting here, please give them a big hand, guys. And first, the one person who's missing is the one who represents acting and casting and direction, Mukesh. We're missing him here. But if I'm going to talk about each and every one of you here, of course, we'll talk about storytelling as a cinematic form. But what I'm really interested in, because I've known some of you for many, many years, being in this business, firstly, take us through your stories in terms of how you got into this business over time, where has it evolved to, and where do you find yourself learning and unlearning in this particular field that you're in part of? I'm going to start with you, Mayank.
Hello. Okay. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Mayank. So I think it's a very interesting question. I come from a very small town in Bihar. It's called Sitamarhi. It's a birthplace of Sitaji, and have been very fond of watching movies. I went to Pune for my higher studies, and then I was in Bombay to work in HSBC. But because I had passion for the movies, and I love watching movies. Somehow I was attracted to it, and I met someone at Fun Republic. There was a cinema chain used to happen, and I just went for a coffee there to meet someone and of my hometown. And they offered me a job. They said, what are you doing? I said, I just finished my MBA and here in Bombay to join HSBC. They said, why don't you work here? I said, okay, theaters do have offices. We thought in 2007, theaters, there is a box office and of course there is a one office. We didn't know there is a head office, someone's like, marketing, programming. And but I was really excited. And
so you basically got into the movies the way movie stars are, right? They're getting coffee and someone spots you and gives you a job.
Yes.
That's not how executives usually get a job.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So I had interview. So Bhumika, my first boss, and she's at Z right now. And I met her. She asked me about film questions. Which movie did you watch last? I said Kabul Express. Who directed it? Who produced it? I had all the answers, but which I had not prepared.
Right.
And now the interview happened and I got it. And my only question when they asked me to ask, I said, will I get to watch movies free of cost?
For free, right.
So they said, of course, that's your job. That's what you have to do. You have to watch all the movies. I said, nothing like that. I don't want to go to town to work at HSBC. I am living in Andheri. I work at cinema. So a big passion. So I work with Fun Cinemas. I work with UTV in between, and now Cinepolis since.
So was UTV also the theatrical side, distribution side?
Distribution side.
Right. Got
it. I was there for a very short while. Then Cinepolis happened, and with Cinepolis more than a decade.
Right. How about you, Vivek?
Hi, Mayank. Hi, everybody. Feels like a job interview, but
no, it's not. It's more like an interview, like a journalistic interview. I'm keen to know your story.
All right. No, so basically, since college days, always believed that cinema had the power to impact people, and that was something that was stayed back in my head. So even in business school, we had I'd applied for ABCL at that point in time, even after my from business school. Unfortunately, ABCL went down, so therefore they didn't come to campus.
Which campus was this?
So Jamnalal Bajaj.
Okay.
And even the thought of kind of working in cinema always stayed with me. So I said, okay, next best thing, let's get into something creative. So then the journey began with advertising, then television, then radio, then kids television. And then I got a call when I was working in Hong Kong saying that, Fox is setting up office in India. Would you like to be part of the founding team? And I said, what better calling than this to do that? Since then, the cinema journeys began with Fox, with Sony, and now basically setting up this business for Intent Media Network, which is a company that's co-promoted by Aditya Pitti and Anand Mahindra. So yeah, here I am.
Sunir?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm a mechanical engineer first.
What? Health engineer?
Mechanical engineer.
Mechanical engineer. It's the voice bouncing.
Mechanical engineer, and then got interested in the field of finance, decided to follow financial markets, went for my MBA to Ahmedabad. Never was into the media and entertainment side. Came back from Hong Kong, got bored, and somebody said this technology, media, telecom revolution is happening, TMT is happening, and I got a job as a banker from Bank of America to doing research and learning about media and entertainment industry. I used to write for Vicky Frames, something for CII also. When ADA Group acquired Ad Labs, I joined them. I worked with Mr. Shetty on the film distribution, setting up their film distribution business. Before moving on to co-productions, I had an entrepreneurial journey which began in 2012-13 when I started the content development production business. It was called Azure at that time. In 2020, during COVID, I started a 100% owned content development production company. It's called Athena. So I moved places, mostly because I got bored of whatever I was doing. And, here I am, where you have pastime and hobby of watching movies and reading any sort of material. That's my professional life. So it's something which, both of them are the same now.
Ashima?
Hi, everyone. I'm not sure they all want to know where we started, but since Mayank is the boss. I think I was 6 or 7 when I was telling someone कि 2 लड़कियां थी, वो अपने घर से निकली, फिर स्कूल जा रही थी, फिर वो चलती गई, then somebody asked saying, फिर क्या हुआ? So I said, अभी पहुंची नहीं है. So I continued with chalti gayi. I think I was seeing how long it actually takes to reach a point. So probably telling stories from the time I was 6. The business of storytelling definitely was a passion, and I've done everything from short form in advertising to television, from music television for youth to kids television to long series formats at BBC, all of that. And finally at Z Studios, making series and films, all kinds for all audiences. So that's right.
But so basically the point I was also trying to get at, given that all of you have spent at least 15 years and more in this industry and obviously learning on a regular basis, what are the big changes that you've seen take
You're
place?
making us sound very young, man.
Huh?
You're making us sound very young.
I said 15 plus. Now it could be anything above 15, but I'm also looking at Mayank because he told us that he started in 2007, so that wasn't that long while ago. What are the big changes that you've seen in terms of people come and go, in terms of ideas come and go, in terms of how you approach your jobs, given that technology has changed hugely? What are the big changes that you've noticed and have had to unlearn and learn from?
So from exhibition view, we have seen drastic change post-pandemic. Of course, now everything's pre-COVID, post-COVID. So we have started releasing alternate content, and under alternate content, Japanese film. So I was just discussing with Ashima also that along with the Kisi Ka Bhai Kisi Ki Jaan, there is a film called Suzume, which released, and that contribute 20% of the collection at Cinepolis. Like if Kisi Ka Bhai Kisi Ki Jaan, we sold 2 lakh footfall. So Japanese content, we sold approx 40 to 50,000 tickets. So that's a big change we see. Like, Hollywood contents like Evil Dead, we sold 75,000 tickets in a weekend. And not only Japanese, but concerts, BTS concerts or Korean films. The demand is, it has come. And these movies are specifically working in original language. Of course, producers and distributors are helping to dub and trying to reach BNC centers with the local language of the
So
region.
when you say concert, do you mean the fact that someone or all of us would be in a regular theater with those seats and watching something on the screen? Because concert, usually you're standing and you
Yes, so it's two types of in this. One is live recorded concert.
Okay.
Maybe the concert happened 2 weeks before, and we get the recorded DCP. We plan it, and another one is already recording live event after 3 hours.
That's streaming live.
Yeah, that's screen live
Right.
after 3 hours, or depending the time difference. That's also happening.
Are you serving alcohol?
Sorry,
Never mind. Is there booze?
Daru, no,
Okay.
no alcohol.
Right. So basically, we're all like in our coffee mugs and sitting there and watching a concert. It's a bizarre experience. I've never tried it, but it might be interesting.
It is when the audience is buying at 1,000 plus ticket price.
You're kidding
Then
me.
it is.
Amazing. How about you, Vivek? What are the big learnings and unlearnings you've had and with new changes in technology in your field?
So what's really changed is the fact that the cinema landscape, obviously prior to 2008, was dominated by single screens.
Yes.
Then came the onset of the multiplexes, right, where we saw huge growth as far as multiplexes are concerned, opportunity to see. So people started going out to cinema in, as a family event. And that stays true because movies are a religion in India and people like to visit this temple once a week for sure. What's also happened is that with the opportunity to see, the content started evolving, right? You saw a certain kind of content that kind of was the flavor of the season. And now the content, you see the flavor of content changing also because the audience is changing. And you've seen the audience also change their likes and dislikes, primarily now pushed faster because of the pandemic and the exposure to the kind of alternative content they've got exposed on OTT. During the pandemic, they've seen content which is dubbed in all other languages from different parts of India as well as different parts of the world. So they've got a huge amount of learning. So they are getting more and more difficult to please. And that's what I think we're here to discuss today is about what is it that we can do to actually get this audience now, which has got so difficult to please, back into the cinemas. And, and then that's a question that obviously all of us, the industry is trying to kind of answer at this point in time. And that evolution has been quite interesting for this industry. And I kind of hope to kind of see if we can get some answers here today. Yeah.
Sunir?
I think over the last 15 years, what has not changed is every now and then you will have different stakeholders coming up saying, this will work. Let's make this. The reality of the industry is still the same. Nobody knows nothing. We don't know what is going to work. But we keep on hearing these things because that's how, as human beings, naturally we are reactive to something which is happening around us. Second thing, people continue to say, let's look at Korea, let's make a Squid Game, let's look at Spain, let's make a money heist. What has not changed is that these kind of things, I don't think can be designed, they happen. For every Crouching Tiger, people will go and make 10 different kind of films and they will not work. What breaks out, nobody can define. So I am a believer in the fact that we don't know at what time, when will break through. So those are the two constants. You keep on hearing that, and I think we'll keep on hearing that as we go along. One more thing which is distinctly different is that people are starting to sample and watch different kind of content, different languages. They've gotten used to reading subtitles. They've gotten used to hearing dubbed versions. So as media exposure is increasing, the stories that we are trying to find, hopefully to get made, are becoming, more widespread. The source of the stories is all over the world. When I started working as an independent producer, I'm not a writer-director-led company. So we had to find stories, because stories will get directors and actors. If your stories are more exciting than the worst story that they have, and when you get an actor or director, the money will come in, and that's how the films will get made. What is happening is everybody is looking for stories. It was far easier 10 years back. You could find stories from anywhere in the world, but then one thing works. Everybody goes to that country and tries to find stories. So people like me, what they do is, this and this film is happening in Spain. Let's see if we can get an English script before that film releases. If we like the story, can we adapt it here? That's how we find our stories from other cultures, while focusing on, trying to find stories from India. And a lot of people are trying to find stories from South India, which has been there for 30, 40, 50 years. So I think as an industry, we are becoming more aligned to what is happening all around the world.
So, I mean, I know you mentioned this fact that if there's something being made at that same time, you could take rights off that particular. That's precisely what you did with Dobara, right? I mean, that's how that film got made? Or are there other examples also where you worked on similar things?
No, so there is this Spanish director, Oriol Paulo. I have picked up 3 of his stories. One was The Body, which all of us, collectively, all the stakeholders screwed with that film. That film was one of the best films. It didn't work here. Then while we had picked that up...
What did you make here as?
It was called The Body.
Was it called The Body?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we tinkered around with the fabric. Did it play in your cinema? It came in the cinema, yeah.
Okay.
December 2018, I think.
Okay.
Or 19, December 2019. Then they were making a film called The Invisible Guest, called Contratiempo in Spain. We got English script, and it was the most complex script which we read, and we took a gut call ki chalo isko dekhte hain. That's what became Badla. While we were shooting that, he was working on a sci-fi thriller called Mirage. We got the English script and we picked that up.
Right.
And that's how Dobara happened.
Dobara, right.
Yeah. So it's not about, I think a remake is one of the options, but I feel that if you're picking up an English script, it's a literature. If you're picking up a manuscript, it's a form of literature. People will have various formats, various forms to make it. I have got 2 books which have been made outside India, but not here. As long as they are not being exploited here, you have a chance that maybe this story can be adapted here.
I just wanted to say, so I agree with Sunil. Many times, a lot of people say we know, but actually we don't know much, because we see this surprises very frequently on Monday morning meets when we discuss our weekend performances of top 10 movies, and we see that this time Telugu is leading or Kantara is leading from Kannada. And we've played...
I'm going to get to that. Because that's something that's changed hugely as well in the past 2-3 years, in fact. But Ashima, what are the big learnings that you had, or learnings you've had in the many years that you've been around, 15 plus years as it?
I'm going to, 25 years. So I was a part of the first .com boom, in the year 2000, where we launched something called India.com, which was a Star TV thing, INDYA, and we thought we are just creating like a completely world-changing thing, right? And the competition was literally between a Yahoo.com and it was supposed to be where Book My Show today, which is the biggest thing, was a small button, where India Bulls was a small button. And then in 2 years we went boost. We were just gone.
What happened? How did it go bust? How did that whole .com bust happen in the first place?
I think it was way too ahead of its time, right? I don't think audiences were ready. And firstly, we had no internet services, right? So what are we doing? We're creating these massive .coms, trying to deliver entertainment through something that doesn't have a medium to deliver. Right. So
and no medium to pay also, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm telling you, it's a fantastic story on today where, some of these that time buttons and what we used to I think pay Book My Show some 10 rupees per ticket. Extra every ticket that's sold on an India.com. Now that is a change. But what I want to specify, Mayank, is that is a change that you see over the years. But today we have to, as just people in media, accept that there was a world before 2019 and there's a world after that.
100%.
And we've got to stand up and accept that none of the matrix or statistics that applied earlier applies anymore. Okay? Everything has changed. And it wasn't a small thing that happened, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I wish that it was smaller than what it was, right? But the fact that earlier, before 2020 March, we could easily pick up data, put a matrix, ye chalega, wo chalega, this entertainment will work, let's try this stuff. Nothing holds right now. So we're literally restarting everything and all our learning from the time we've reopened. So, and that goes for cinema too. And I mean, I'm sure these guys will all agree that it is a complete restart of our learning. You know, can you say the top 5 stars will work? No. You know, we've seen how it's been in the last 2 years. Can you say that this particular genre will work? Not at all. Heartland movie, will it work? We don't know. A small time movie, it won't work. Yes, it will.
But
so we don't know how.
Yeah, but the fact is, it's not like everyone knew what would work in the past either. I think every time we're making a prediction, we're getting it wrong. For instance, everyone said remakes won't work, but the moment Drishyam 2 came, they all got it wrong because that was a remake and scene by scene remake, right? And what it seems, and I want you here, Mayank, what it does seem like, if we look at a couple of Bollywood big blockbusters that have happened, those still 90s guys are still there, right? They were working before pandemic. They seem to be working even after. Would that be correct to say? Whether you take a Pathan or you take this week's release, Kisi Ka Bhai, Kisi Ki Jaan, or well, I wish I could say that for Lal Singh Chaddha, but that's another thing that didn't work, right? So is star system still there or not?
Of course, they will always have that charm and that advantage, because why are they stars? Because previously, in last 10 years or 20 years, they have done some work, they have achieved some fame, or they have made some percentage of population happy with their performance, and that's why they are stars, and there will be pull. But of course, that pull will have to be with the content. What public probably wants to watch that day or that week on that year. Like to just add,
did Bhai deliver this Friday or not?
I believe it's decent. We see the numbers.
What is decent?
It's average. It will do 100 crore. With Bhai, of course, the expectation would be 150, 100, 200.
100 crore lifetime?
No. We've just 3. So
so far, right.
We're just 4 days,
First
right?
week.
So technically, it's actually for the first weekend done really well.
Right.
I'm just saying it because it's our release, but it has done very well. And
in the Monday is good with 10 crore.
Monday, in fact, Monday was really good. Now, again, surprising. May not be, because we all know Salman Khan has his very, very diligent audience. But a lot of things that have come up in the last 2-3 days, which we were in fact internally discussing. There was always this perception that multiplex films do very well in the overseas market, right? Kisi Ka Bhai, Kisi Ki Jaan has done okay in multiplexes. It's a single screen. It's gone mass completely, but it's done phenomenally well in the overseas market. It's the second biggest opening, I was telling you, in North America after Pathan, weekend opening. So a lot of things, which is what I mean, a lot of matrix that we knew are not the same as they were. Right. So there is a whole lot of new learning.
Like she was saying, she's right. But before pandemic, like 2019, that Bareilly ki Barfi is working, Badai was working, Hindi medium is working. You're very nearby. At least you can have that idea. Now
working phenomenally, right? So here we're looking at, say, 2019 and the theatrical revenues that came that year, which is right before the pandemic. All the theaters, all the multiplexes, all the companies are posting huge profits. All these films of Ayushmann Khurrana, Rajkumar Rao, etc., they were all doing well, at least breaching 100 crore, which is massive for the kind of investments you make. Do you think with the pandemic, and again, the same caveat, nobody knows better, we're just doing bug. But even then, so do you think that space, and I'm going to come to you specifically because that's the space you're in as Z Studio, that's the film that you've lately produced, the ones that you send to the film festivals, the ones that you want a limited release for and get word of mouth and then do much better. Are you facing that problem? Would you rather go directly to OTT or is OTT even taking that film anymore until you show your opening numbers or your performance in the theaters? I'm going to take all of you, please.
So the good thing about Z Studios is because we do the whole gamut, right? So while we'll have a Kisi Ka Bhai, Kisi Ki Jaan,
which I just learned right now, by the way, that you guys are distributing
that we were doing it, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and we've got Maidan coming up in June, which is a big one for us also. We also just did Chatterjee in Norway, Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway, which did really well for the content heavy film that it was. So given that it doesn't have a Khan, given that it's a content heavy. So we've got So we've got these films that we do, which are definitely just got an announcement last week at Cannes Film Festival. Anurag Kashyap's Kennedy's there. We just came back from Berlin with a Marathi film, which was in competition. So we do that size. I think coming to your question, the success stories post-pandemic have really been, I guess, more of the big ones. And that opens up the question which we were talking about, is that what happens to the medium-sized content-heavy films, which in 2018 and 19, like Stree, Badhai Ho, etc., which did phenomenally well, right? I mean, that also was a phase. It's not like medium-size always did well. It was just those 2-3
Certain
years,
films,
that did well. So I think the thing we should definitely speak about is the fact that in the last 1 year, we have seen successes of Pathan, Kisi Ka Bhai, slightly, of course, there was a Bhool Bhulaiya and Drishyam.
Yeah.
But again, that's Ajay Devgan. What happens to these mid-sized ones? Where are we going? And for me, the starting point has been Chatterjee Norway, right? To see that, yes, there is still people have faith in this. Sorry.
Just to add to what she's saying, see, I think what's actually the problem here is that audiences aren't coming to the theaters as freely as they were coming before. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. We have to come to terms with.
And that's something Mayank agrees with, right?
You agree with it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sure.
So I think the primary reason for that obviously is the content, right? That has to be the driving force. People are not coming to eat popcorn.
But wait, I mean, the word content itself is such a subjective thing. And of course, it needs to be good content, but who's good content?
Correct.
Who thinks this is good content? That kind of thing, right?
Correct.
But when you're in a company which is, say, making mid-sized films, how does that change the economics of how you'll go forward?
Sure.
Because we're not sure if it's even considered worthy of cinema anymore.
So again, mid-sized films does not mean that they cannot go to cinema, right? When I said content, I basically meant whatever the audience is going to come to the theaters to pay money for, right? Pathan they'll pay money for Kisi Ka Bhai, Kisi Ki Jaan, but they'll also pay money for Chatterjee versus Norway or Uchai for that matter, right? So the fact is that people are willing to come if the content is good. If you look at South cinema, there's a Malayalam film called Romancham that's just released a while back. The cost of the film is 4 crores or something. That even the producers didn't believe in the film. They sold the film and it did a box office of 40 crores. So the fact of the matter is that it's such a small film, but people are finding favor with it because the content is connecting. So the mood point I think here is obviously starting with content as to if the big content, small content, doesn't really matter. The content has to connect with the audience. And you see that in cases...
And whether people will pay, right?
Whether people will pay for watching that film. There was another film called Love Today, which released. Cost of the film was 5 crores. It did 75 crores at the box office.
Love Today.
Love Today.
Why am I hearing all these new names?
It's a Tamil film.
It's a Tamil film.
So the point I'm trying to say is that we are talking about Hindi cinema, but when you look at examples from across India, you're seeing that these small films are working, beautifully well. Primarily because the subject is connecting with the audiences. Also, what's happening is that the audiences, primarily for cinema, are looking at it as a value proposition on the weekend. The ticket pricing, and he's going to obviously hit me for it. But the fact is that there is a value that the audience wants. If I'm going to go, leave my house, get into the car, go
and
to
pay
the
as
theater,
much as the monthly subscription for Netflix.
correct,
Yeah.
and if the film is not kind of delivering to the promise it is, then I feel cheated. So I much rather wait for the word of mouth. And then because the word of mouth is 50-50, I'd say let's watch it on OTT. That brings me to the next problem is the OTT window. So there are many such issues like this, and we can discuss it here in terms of what exactly is causing this problem, which is preventing people from having that urgency to go to cinemas to pay their hard-earned money and to watch and get entertained.
When you made Badla, for instance, and that was a huge hit, I remember, in the theaters, and then when you made Dobara, that was not as huge a hit. What's the difference? Because the timeline is different, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, both theatrical releases. How much had the world changed when you came out with both these films?
So we did Batla and Kesari. Kesari was done by Z Studios and Dharma along with us. Both of them came within 2 weeks of each other. I go back to saying no one knows nothing because Badla overseas, international market grosses were better than Kesari. Unexpected.
Right.
I'll come back to what happened with Dobara, but I think there is a missing link for Hindi cinema, Hindi feature films. If you take Globe as the world market as the audience and you divide them into, let's say, sub 30 years and above 30 years, what pandemic has done is globally, this audience group of above 30 years has more reluctance to come into the theaters. And if you take North America and worldwide, the films which are doing amazingly well would be a Top Gun, would be a Marvel property, or would be, like Mario Brothers, which is out now, which is more of a family viewing exercise along with the children. But in North America, you have this horror genre in various formats. Could be a horror comedy, could be a horror thriller. You have Smile, you have Cocaine Bear, you have Conjuring, and all the films which are coming over there. They are getting and Evil Dead now, they are getting the younger audiences. In India, unfortunately, apart from this Evil Dead Rise this weekend, which has done close to 10 crores gross box office, that genre doesn't exist for Hindi films. What's happening in South is...
Well, Bhedia counts a little bit.
Sorry?
Bhedia counts a little bit.
No, I think Bhedia is a mainstream film. It's a thriller, it's a comedy, creature comedy, so as to say.
Yeah.
But let's look at Tamil. For every Vikram, there is a Love Today. And Love Today doesn't have any stars, but the film is working well. So people are coming into theaters. It's not that we don't want to go into theaters. How many of those audiences, and Mayank, you should take it up at some time, are in the age group below 30? Are these films working because family audiences are coming, older audiences are coming, or no? For Malayalam film Romancham, for every Drishyam 2, which Drishyam 2 didn't come in theaters, if it had come in theaters, it would have done glorious business. There is a Romancham. Similarly, in Kannada cinema, we have had KGF 2 and Kantara. Kantara was not an expensive film, but it broke through. In Hindi, apart from Unchai and Mrs. Chatterjee, which by the genre, I assume that it's a film where 40 plus audiences are coming more or 30 plus audiences are coming more. I don't think there is some missing link over here that either we are running 12 months behind because we are thinking now what to make so that people will come into theater. If Badla was to come today, I'm not sure it will do 90 crore or 120 crore gross, which it did. What happened in Dobara was that it came after pandemic. It's a genre which people think, oh, we'll watch it on OTT. Why do we need to go to the theaters? Because the subject of the film was more cerebral. It was more an urban film. And there is a resistance to go to the theaters. Various films which have come at that point in time have faced that issue. As an audience, if I used to go every week into theaters, and now I am also waiting, being in the business, what is the common man thinking? So we need to give them a reason, a rationale as to why should I go to theater, and every time it cannot be Pathan. It will be wrong to say that we've been making really great content and people are not coming. I don't think so. Right. I think it needs to start from this side. And at some point in time, these timelines will match. Maybe 12 months down the line, we will start making films which are differentiated, which are more coming with a deeper thinking as to we need to make good content.
Right. I mean, we've had this time earlier in, say, early 2000s, right? Which is when horror was picked up by Mahesh Bhatt and Mukesh Bhatt company, and they brought music into horror, and these became your middle budget films that you're talking about, which did considerably well week after week, right? Mayank, because you are part of that industry that was facing almost near extinction after pandemic, it seemed like people are simply not showing up in theaters. Did you guys do any research to figure out what's going on? Are people averse to a trip to the cinema? Is there anything that you did in terms of figuring out the public per se? Because you were seeing the numbers, and clearly the numbers, even now, to be fair, and I want to get to that as well, like to what extent has it come back? What did you find out?
So one thing we found out from our research and from Club Cinepolis, it's a loyalty program where we have 40 lakh database, and apart from that also we do research. So we realized if there were 100 people coming before pandemic, so out of 100, only 60 people are coming from those 100 database of 100, plus 20 more people are coming, which is new audience, which had never come before.
And which had never come to theater before.
Yes, so there is still.
They got tired of OTT.
They never. So maybe they were there. I don't know, but they have never come. We have asked them and we have tried to find them, but they had never come before. So what our guess is basically, our guesstimate is, they are the people who developed watching content habit in pandemic, and by watching TV or different content, they started loving content. Okay, now we should go to theater. We should watch, movies in theater, and they start registering themselves at the Club Cinepolis or start mentioning themselves. So yeah, there is an impact from what it was pre and post. And but there's new audience also. There's a development of new audience.
I mean, that's when people started talking about this whole pan-India films, right? Because 3 movies did really well. But that's not how it turned out eventually. I mean, this was being seen as this whole pan-India thing. But I haven't come across a huge Telugu hit since RRR. Haven't come across a huge Kannada hit since, I mean, in a national sense, since Kantara. Definitely not another huge Tamil film since Vikram. There were Pongal releases. I don't think if that was the case, that people had just totally sampled South, then those Pongal releases should have been huge, right?
No, I don't agree. So Varisu was a Tamil film.
Was it a huge hit? Was Varisu a huge hit in the Hindi market?
It was not a huge hit, but it did pretty decent in Hindi as well. It ran for 4 weeks. And there were very few pan-India Kannada film, like out of 4 films which I released in last 12 months as a pan-India Kannada film. Unfortunately, Kabza didn't work. So all pan-India or all content cannot work, and all contents we also cannot watch. Like there are 1,000 films releasing. So as an individual, we also go once in a week, or maximum we can watch 1.5 content. Right. 75 films in a year.
Yeah.
So and we like to choose the best content.
So right now we don't know that there is such a thing as a pan-India film, right? We don't know that a movie from the South is necessarily going to do as well as those 3 did, because it was really those 3, and that was last year.
Right. So just to add, Sunil, so Sunil has rightly said, so what we also believe, so after pandemic, our behavior is changing, or we are developing very fast in terms of what we want to watch. So what happens when we watch something like Dark, then we go mad. I said, okay, this is a benchmark. So I want better than this. So now someone has not thought better than this last 6 months or not made, then we might not want to prefer or might not want to write something extraordinary about that film or series on our social media, and social media medium where it gets spread word of mouth. So that's what happens. We watch something better in Spanish, and then we start writing, okay, this is the best.
So what did you sorry no.
I just want to add to that is that the point is that we post pandemic, right, it's not as easy as taking off a mask, right? We have to restart everything. I think we're still taking steps forward. If 2021 we had 0 successes, whatever went crashed, even if this year we get 3, 4, I mean, this year in fact has been quite decent, with keeping Pathan aside, whether it's Bhool Bhulaiya, Drishyam 2, they've done pretty well. I think 2 out of 10 is also damn good. We're making progress, right? I mean, and the thing that we need to all as an industry address is, how do we take this further? Like we said, how do we make this a thing which is not only for big films? How do we do the medium films which also bring in the audiences? And like Vivek said, it is content. It's finally what you're putting out there. Maybe the bigger ones have to be a spectacle, right? Finally, we're all social beings. We all want to sit. Cinema experience of being with your friends, cheering. Pathan showed us, right? I mean, all theaters were Siti Bajao, sab saath mein gao bajao. How do we make sure that that is not the only experience that they're coming for, even if it is a content-strong film, whether it's like a Badai Ho or Chatterjee or whatever, people start coming back. And that is what we've got to keep doing. So the idea is not to now, as makers and distributors and everybody, turn around and say, okay, in the last 1 year, looks like only the big guys are doing well. Let's only put out big films. The idea is to say, okay, we know the big guys mostly will do well. Not all have done well. We know that also. Mostly will do well. What is a medium lot that we want to take a punt with? And we just, as an industry, have to put it out there. Just to understand that people have started stepping in. 2 out of 10 is not bad. You know, it's going to become 3 out of 10. It's going to come back to 5. And at some point, we'll get where we were. It's a long way to come back. But we've got to keep at it. That's really what it is.
How in terms of pre-pandemic levels, how close is the cinema industry right now, exhibition sector right now in terms of footfalls and revenues, actually, more than footfalls, which is hard to tell.
So footfalls, as I said, the 15% like to like, we are down. And,
1.5.
And revenue.
So 85% you're back.
Yes.
If you compare it to 2019
yes, 85
figures.
to 20.
That's pretty good. I'm talking about footfalls for the whole year.
Yes.
What he's saying is, out of 100 people, 60 people have come back. Out of the remaining 20, 25, these are the people who never used to come to plexes earlier.
So
they
new people have
come.
been added, yeah.
The 20 of those who never came back have become converts, and habits die hard. It will take some time for them to get off the couches and say, okay, I want a community experience. Let me go watch Pathan. Let me go watch Stree. Because horror and comedy are the real community viewing experiences. Those 20, 25 people who have never returned and who become OTT, ki picture OTT pe aayegi dekhenge, we need to get them back at some point in time, like they got into the habit of watching films at home. If we have good content coming up, they'll probably come back. And
correct.
As an audience,
that's right. Absolutely.
That's what's happened in China. That's what's happened in North America. So people are there. We just need to make,
Right.
good stuff.
The other thing, Sunir, because you're talking about making good stuff, and it's obviously a function of talent and the quality of talent, whether it's writing, whether it's production, whether it's genuine filmmaking, right? Do you think with the sort of growth that OTT is seen in India, it's a very nascent industry, hardly been around since 2016, some of the top filmmakers in this city are actually making stuff for OTT platforms rather than what would be theatrical releases. You take the best directors in this town and their best works are going directly to, whether it's Motwane's Jubilee or it's Vishal, whatever he makes next. I'm talking about the kind of films of a certain quality. Do you think some of the best filmmakers were lost to the OTT industry, or at least has been in this particular phase that we're in?
I don't think so. I think there was a phase when the top 3 OTT platforms, 4 OTT platforms wanted 15 movies each 2 years back. That doesn't exist today. So an output of 50, 60 films, which would have gone direct to digital today, might be less than 20 films. It's the time that
they also burned their fingers, right? I mean, they spent a lot of money over the past 2-3 years.
But you don't know why they were buying what they were buying at the prices at which they were buying.
Yeah.
If I am a big platform and my Diwali window is open, that I will be forced to buy a film at a particular valuation, which screws up things for all the producers because such and such talent will think that this is what my film is worth, but that doesn't get replicated. I think filmmakers, if they get an opportunity to make what they want to make, and the names that you mentioned belong to that category, they should make whatever when they are getting an opportunity to do that kind of cinema, which is not constrained by what defines commercial cinema.
Or box office
I don't
numbers.
know what the audience wants. What I know is that they don't want sameness. So there was a time when we thought, let's find another Badla. But today, in the last 3 years, that mentality has now changed, saying that, oh, the audience is probably not going to go for that. So there is a time, and we are an industry of, we have more followers. We are reactive people. Everybody wants to do a KGF 2. But when they do KGF 2 again and again, all of them are not going to work. So by the time they realize, let's do romance, somebody has made a Love Today and gotten ahead. I think it's a constant evolution. We continue to think, going back to my first remark, that we know what is going around us. We actually don't. So the point is that just try and make an effort to make the best kind of stories.
I think
we can.
Just to add to what you're saying, I
I'd
think
like to
as a
respond
maker,
to this, if there is any sort of talent drain, as it were, between
I
what
don't
should have been
think so.
cinema
Okay.
and what is-
I think, the talent also needs to keep doing something, right?
Yeah.
So when cinemas were not working, they got to keep doing something. I think OTT has just given them another medium to tell their story. And as a creative person, I can clearly say that both the mediums are very precious, right? Because you love cinema, you love the feeling of 800 people locked up in a dark room watching your film and going CT. You love that. You also love the fact that you made something which, thanks to OTT, a guy sitting in Russia in a remote corner has watched it, right? So they both have very different highs that it gives to a director. So I don't think we're losing talent. I think all makers want to tell their stories. It's not every story needs to be told in long forms. Not every story can be told in 2 hours. I think it's a great time for makers because they've got 2 big mediums now to go and completely show their art.
Are we taking questions from the audience?
Yeah, you can take one, Mayank, if
A
time
couple of
allows,
them.
Yeah? All right. Mayank, whoever you would like, yeah? Okay.
Would you like a mic? Or you can just...
No, I mean, just in interest of the recording, and if you could just use the mic.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So my first question is for Sunir ji and Ashima ji, and second would be for Mayank ji and Vivek ji. तो मेरा पहला क्वेश्चन ये कि हर राइटर बहुत मेहनत करता है अपनी राइटिंग करने के लिए. 3 मंथ तो मिनिमम 6 मंथ जाते हैं किसी भी प्रोजेक्ट को लिखने के लिए, और मैक्सिमम 1.5 साल 2 साल, वो जितना भी जाए. और फिर वो बहुत स्ट्रगल करता है अब से प्रोड्यूसर्स तक आने के लिए, राइट? तो ऐसा क्या कोई ऐसे पॉइंट कि एक राइटर को स्टोरी नरेट करते हुए जो करना चाहिए और नहीं करना चाहिए, जिससे आप ये सुन के लगे नहीं इस स्टोरी को और सुनना चाहिए, और एक पॉइंट पे आप बोलो नहीं ये स्टोरी मेरे लिए काम नहीं करेगी. क्योंकि मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि यहाँ पर आई थिंक बहुत सारे लोगों के पास अपने कुछ प्रोजेक्ट होंगे जिसपे वो लिख रहे होंगे, बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट हैं. तो ऐसा क्या होता है जो नरेट करते हुए हम बता सके बहुत कम लफ्जों में, बहुत कम शब्दों में कि सर हमारे पास ये है और ये नहीं है? तो ऐसा क्या आपको अट्रैक्ट करता है वो?
So,
What's a good pitch?
Sure.
Yeah.
There are 2 aspects to it. I'll reply in English, it's okay?
Yeah.
There are 2 aspects to it. One is, it's a very individual thing. I will be excited about things which naturally come to me, excite me. Because I am in the business of looking stories which I have to back, and eventually then hope that an actor and a director will back, and then a financier will back. It's a long journey. What works best for me is, even if you have 1 paragraph, that's fine. 1 paragraph to 1 page to 10 pages of story or 20 pages of story or a screenplay. But the first point of contact is that I don't want my attention to be diverted with the first paragraph. Because that will tell me, is it a genre which I want to do? Is it something that eventually when it gets made, am I the right producer to cast it or not cast it? So this is a natural way of looking at things. Everybody is trying to find ways to get their stories heard. It will come from the writers, then it will come to the producers, then it will go to the directors, then it will go to the actors. So there is no one way, but it is always good to have a clear, striking first paragraph.
So we are also kind of, we are developing a lot of content. और जब कोई भी राइटर हमारे पास जब आता है ना, तो आई थिंक द फर्स्ट थॉट जब वो कहानी सुनाता है तो ये है कि ये कहानी सुनी हुई है क्या. पहले ये एक वो, क्योंकि जितनी पिक्चरें हैं उसमें से क्या ये किसी के साथ सिमिलैरिटी है, क्या ये वो पिक्चर के जैसे है. तो पहले थॉट तो ये है कि वो चेक आप खुद करें कि वो जो कहानी आप लिख रहे हैं वो किसी और पिक्चर के साथ मेल नहीं खा रही. सबसे बड़ी बात ये है, कुछ यूनिक, इनोवेटिव, फ्रेश, नया, ताजा होना चाहिए. दैट इज द मूड पॉइंट ऑफ व्हाट विल बेसिकली गेट द फुट इन द डोर. अगर उसके बाद फिर कहानी में फिर क्या दम है, वो किस प्रकार की कहानी है, किस जॉनर की कहानी है, वो बाद में आती है. दैट इज आई थिंक द फर्स्ट पॉइंट. वेदर दैट passes the test of freshness is something that is what everybody is looking for right now. We are all looking for original stories. Everybody सब नए और एकदम ओरिजिनल पिक्चरें की खोज कर रहे हैं. तो उसके चक्कर में अगर आपने वो टेस्ट पास किया है तो that will basically ensure that there is at least somebody will listen to you and take this conversation forward.
Ashima, you want to take that because you head the content at Z?
So I think definitely very critical. The first initial log line, literally, right? That one paragraph is key to get the attention, correct? But more than that, I always tell everybody कि नरेशन और जो लिखा हुआ है उसमें फर्क नहीं रखो, क्योंकि आप वही बनाओगे जो लिखा है. आज वो टाइम नहीं रहा कि आप फ्लोर पे जा रहे हैं और वहीं पे कहानी बन जाएगी. इनफैक्ट दोज हैव बीन द बिगेस्ट डिजास्टर्स इन द लास्ट कपल ऑफ इयर्स.
But Bhai's movies get made like that only.
Well,
What
that's
you're
one
saying.
Bhai.
It okay, Vasi. He shoots while he's
There's
figuring out
one
life.
Bhai. That is
Yeah, there's
it.
only one Bhai.
There's only one
to be
Bhai.
fair.
So, but the point is that you have to focus on your written material. Okay, that is what it is, because eventually 5 कहानियां हैं. एक रोमांस है, एक क्राइम है, एक सैडनेस है, एक कॉमेडी है. जॉनर्स आपके वही हैं. आप किस तरीके से उस जॉनर को देखते हो और आपका नजरिया क्या है, आप किस तरीके से वो कहानी बताओगे, इज द की टू इट. ठीक है, कहानियां वही है, वही रोमियो जूलियट है, उसकी लव स्टोरी 50. हमारी कंट्री हैज थ्राइव्ड ऑन लव स्टोरीज, राइट? हाउ हैव दे मेड श्योर दैट वन इज डिफरेंट देन द अदर? सो आई थिंक just keep in mind that even if it is a common theme, it's a common genre, because there are only 5 genres you're looking at, how are you saying it differently? Where is your vision on that story? And that is what will attract anybody.
So basically go to ChatGPT and say, give me a great first paragraph. You will get a great paragraph.
Thank you. I will, one second. I'd like to cut you for the second question because we have someone else waiting. Just quickly give him the mic so that we don't have enough time. Apologies on that. We'll have to keep it 1 question per person, and this is maximum 2 right now. Yeah.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'm Rahil Khan, writer and director. It was a very insightful session. Question for the producer and Mayank and the lady is, why do we writers and directors always think we need to go with a big budget, magnum kind of thing for producers to get attracted? Sorry? Yeah, that was your question. So why are we not thinking of movies which are in a medium budget or low budget with good content, something like a Wednesday kind, which can be made in a 10-15 crores. So the expectations are less, the hype is less. Because nowadays, I think what is killing the cinema experience is the hype. I don't know if Mayank sir will agree with me, because the movies are hyped so much, and when with the trailers and the buzz on page 3, social media, blah blah blah, the promotions, and suddenly audience goes, and by Friday evening they realize it's a disaster, and then they stay away. So why don't we, instead of making a movie for say 150 crore, make 10 movies or 8 movies of say 20 crores each? Won't that be a better business model? Thank you.
That's been an old question, right? It's much easier to raise 100 crore than it is to raise 10 because that's the way businesses work. You want to take this?
Would anyone be kind enough to answer?
No, I think I may have an adjunct question to this one, and this is to do with the fact of your release, the Z Studio release. We've spoken about Dobara briefly, but when Anurag's new film came out, which was, now I've forgotten the name of the film now. Can you just remind me?
Mohabbat.
Huh?
DJ Mohabbat.
DJ Mohabbat. Ishq.
DJ Mohabbat.
DJ Mohabbat, right? Literally no one in my timeline knew that the movie was playing in a theater. And my timeline would be of a certain kind of people who would otherwise know. Is marketing becoming a huge issue now when you have a low budget film because it's just more expensive than it was? Because earlier you could just have a front page ad in a Bombay Times and I would know that it exists. Now, I don't know how many people read Bombay Times, but there is also Instagram and there is also Twitter and there's just the whole internet scape, which is where it's harder and harder to find eyeballs to just tell them that a movie is playing in a theater. Is marketing becoming difficult than it was before?
I mean, of course, marketing plays a key role for sure.
Right.
But
now we don't watch, regular network television in the same way that we did.
They don't, but there are different modes of marketing, right? I mean, everything has been, in fact, I think even Kisi Ka, the kind of marketing that was done, Bhai doesn't need marketing, as people told me. But the point is, who are you targeting? You know your audience, you market it to them. You don't have to. Does Kisi Ka Bhai need to be marketed like in general? No.
No, I don't think Kisi Ka Bhai is the issue, right?
Exactly.
I mean, they would know this is Eid, it's a Salman release.
I'll give you a
I'm
great
talking about
example.
films of a lower budget.
I'll give you Chatterjee, right?
Yeah.
Chatterjee versus Norway.
Yeah.
A very, very emotional film. We knew exactly where we wanted to put it and where we did not want to put it. 100%, 90% films will go on Kapil Sharma's show, right? And this is a discussion we had with Rani, in fact, where we all agreed and said that this is not that film, right?
Yeah.
This is not the film that is going to do ha-ha, hee. It's about a woman's child being taken away and it's a real story.
Did people show up in the theater for this film? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a hit. Mrs. Chatterjee versus
It was
Both for Mrs. Chatterjee and Unchai, who are the people who are coming and watching them?
Exactly.
So I do not have the data handy, but we research.
Data to hoga hi nahi, but from by when you speak to cinemas, who are the people who are coming and watching Mrs. Chatterjee, if you know, and Unchai, if you know, are they the people predominantly 35 plus, 40 plus?
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
In fact, 25 plus,
30,
I would
30
say.
plus.
Yeah, 25, 30 plus. And yes, a little more urban. Definitely the gentry. Probably not the one that has gone, to the 4,500, 5,000 screens that went and saw Kisi Ka. Probably not that one. But it was, again, very targeted, right? Because you need to know your audience. You're making a film. Not every film wants to be watched by the same set of guys. I like something else. I'm not going to go and watch every film, right? So it's the target. And marketing is also now.
So do you think the
thing.
idea of the universal or what was earlier known as the mainstream is diminishing more and more? And then because we see that online anyway, with celebrities too, like there are influencers on Instagram that most of us have never heard of, but they're huge in a certain target group. Likewise, there'll be Twitter, stars that we may not have heard of, but they're huge in their own group. Do you think there's enough fragmentation that's happened where there will not be, except for the Salman films, there will not be that hardcore mainstream as often?
So actually, because I think this is where the business should be heading also. If we want all sizes and all genres of films to work, we need to know our audience also. While we hope and try that everybody loves it, but there will always be a core audience. And if that core audience loves your film, it will travel. Your core audience needs to love your content. Make sure they've got it, because when you try and please everybody, it's going to be a complete crap show, right? You can't please everybody. Make what you truly believe in. This is my audience. This is my story. This is what I want to make. Target it to them. If it works, I promise you, they will spread the word and get it to travel wherever.
That's true, actually. I agree with Ashima. When I was at Sony, we did this film called 102 Not Out.
Yes.
Mr. Bachchan and Rishi Kapoor. Nobody in the industry wanted to buy that film. Nobody. And so when we went in and we kind of saw the film, there was a germ of an idea that we saw there, which we thought would connect with slightly older audiences whose kids are abroad, and the pangs they feel because of the separation. And in the first week, we saw that the numbers were good, but in the second week and the third week and the fourth week, we saw people coming on, wheelchairs, walking sticks, and coming and watching the film because it connected with that audience. To Ashima's point, knowing the audience is very important because then those are the guys who'd come and same thing with Uchai, for that matter. It catered to an audience which was basically slightly older audience with aspirations still alive, wanting to come and experience something like this in their lifetime. So I think knowing the audience and creating content for that is something that's really, really important.
Thank you very much, all of you.